When you have a successful business, you are finally free, right? When you have $1 million in your bank account, when you make 10K a month, you pay off your debt, you move to a different country, and you've created all the freedom that you were looking for. This is how most people create freedom. But I don't believe this is real freedom. You're just creating a shiny prison for yourself by making your external circumstances more beautiful. And I talk to people on a daily basis about their goals, their dreams, their visions, their ambitions. And freedom is the topic that comes up most often. I want to achieve these goals because then I'll be free. Then I'll experience freedom. But this is not how you create freedom. Let's say, let's take the $1 million example. When I have $1 million in my bank account, I will be free. You can replace that number with anything, 10K a month, 100K a year, any other different topic or goal. When you have $1 million in your bank account, you'll be free. But my question is, how do you know? How do you know that when you have that money, you'll be free? And maybe you think or say things like, well, I can pay off my debt. I can quit my job. I can live in a bigger house. I can move to a different country. I can buy this car. I can go out for dinner every single day. Of course I'm free. And yes, you will have novelty, which is only giving you an experience for a very short period of time. But how do you know that you will experience freedom? You can't know. You never ever had $1 million in your bank account. How do you know it will give you freedom? You can't know this. Maybe someone online will tell you, live in this country and you'll be free, or earn this amount of money and then you'll be free. You don't know. And the thing is, and I'm not going to be delusional here, as in you struggle to pay rent, and when you increase your income, of course, you will decrease the stress and pressure and anxiety that you experience around your finances. But this doesn't take you $1 million. And there's a lot of freedom to be created around the stress itself, because freedom is created internally, not externally. If I would have to define freedom, and as a disclaimer, by the way, there is not a universal truth when it comes to the topic of freedom. It's not that we are put here on this earth, we are given a dictionary with the topic of freedom, this is the definition, these are the steps to achieve it, now go out and achieve your freedom. This is not how it works. This is just an off-the-cuff, current perspective of mine when it comes to this topic. And also, I'm not saying that I'm an expert in this in my own life, that I'm completely free, because I don't believe in people being completely free. I believe there are consistent constraints that present itself for you and triggers that present themselves. So if I would define freedom, I would say it is the absence of internal constraints. So I would go to the opposite, as in a lack of freedom is imprisonment, is being constrained, and it's internal constraints, not the external. You can be on a yacht in Monaco and you can feel stuck. You can feel imprisoned. You can feel a lack of freedom, even though you have all the freedom that people call freedom because you're financially free. This is not freedom. You can be in a prison, like a literal prison, and you can be free. You can experience freedom. I'm talking about the experience of freedom. You don't have a choice when you're in a prison to go out to a Michelin star restaurant for dinner. Like, of course, you don't have the ability to make that choice within your circumstances, but that doesn't have to affect the experience of freedom, because freedom is not dependent on external circumstances. If your freedom is dependent on external circumstances, you are not free. How is that freedom? That a number in your bank account gives you freedom or not gives you, or doesn't give you freedom. If you have 1,000 in your bank account and now you're free, but now it jumps to 99 or $999 and now you're not free anymore. Like, how does that work? Is your experience dependent on something outside of you? To me, means that you're a victim of circumstances, because other people and other circumstances are creating your experience of life. So that means that you're not the creator. Something outside of you is giving you that feeling. To me, that's not freedom. You're out of control. I want you to be the owner of your life and the experience that you have. So when I'm talking about the absence of internal constraints, the internal constraints are, for example, traumas. It could be limiting beliefs. It could be the way that you construct your identity. So for example, when I say I'm a coach, like, that's not true. I am not a coach. I practice the profession of coaching. It's not my identity. I can choose to make it my identity, but it's not who I am. So these are all constructs that help us function in society, but it's not the truth in that sense. So freedom means that you also create a detachment. So you have the traumas, the stories, the identity. You can also see this in people trying to prove themselves that they're good enough. They're seeking this validation. So these are, let's say, the internal constraints that are present that are limiting your experiences of freedom, that will create prisons for you. So if we apply this, for example, to the financial situation that I gave earlier, where you are struggling to pay rent and now you have this stress and this anxiety around your finances, and you think, if I have more money, then I'll be free. The thing is, what you see a lot with people earning more money, they are still stressed as fuck about the finances. So it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire, it doesn't matter if you're almost broke or living on the street. Both people, they have the exact same experience. They're both stressed about the finances. So is it really having money or not having money that is creating this experience? Or are you the creator of the experience? That's where the freedom is created. When you realize that my circumstances are not giving me an experience. I am creating the experience by my stories about the circumstances. Because if I'm struggling with my finances, what if other people would see it? I'm embarrassed about it. I'm ashamed about it. So if I have to move to a different apartment or live in a smaller house, what will people think of me? I need to keep living in this house because otherwise I lose my identity, I lose my ego, I lose my self-worth. Your whole self-worth is tied into finances. So if I'm not competent in my finances, that means I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. That's why people are afraid to open up their bank account sometimes to see the money that they have or don't have because of that confrontation, because of these stories. So how free are you really? Is it the finances or is it your story about the finances? And that's why I believe both are true, as in increase your income to decrease the stress, but also work with the stories that are there. To give you a personal example, I experienced illness a lot. So I spent close to half of my 20s ill. So in two different situations. The second time I got ill, I, for example, lost 6 to 8 kilos in 2 weeks' time. I'm not someone with a lot of fat on me. So you could see my whole face change, my whole body changed. I couldn't move anymore. I couldn't work anymore. I lost my money, lost my apartment, you name it. So I got, in this moment, a hard confrontation with all the prisons that were inside of me. Not just one, I think hundreds at once. So this is where I thought I was free, but I was the complete opposite of free. And just to highlight one thing, when my body changed like that, I could see how much of my self-worth was tied into the way that my body looked. The things that I could do, the performances that I could do with my hand balancing, with my calisthenics, the crazy moves, and how other people would see that and validate me. So now my self-worth is tied into the way that my body looked and the performances or the tricks that I could do. So when I couldn't do it anymore, my anxiety levels went through the roof. I didn't want anybody to see me like this. I didn't want anybody to know that I was ill, that I was dealing with an illness. Because of my self-worth, because of the stories. So, and it's not that I could see it and, oh, now I'm finally free. It took me, the first year of that illness, it took me that whole year of suffering to finally be able to detach myself from my circumstances, where I could say, my circumstances do not define me. I can choose who I'm being within my circumstances. To come to that place, it took me a year of suffering because the pain is present. Like, I'm not going to be, again, this delusional perspective as in, okay, I feel this exhaustion and pain and I can't move, but let me create freedom around this. Like, yes, the pain is there, it's part of life. But the suffering is what I'm choosing. And that's where the lack of freedom is. That's where I was experiencing the lack of freedom. Because why am I suffering? I can't achieve anymore. My whole identity was tied into achievement. My whole self-worth was tied into what I can create. So if I can't create anymore, anxiety, anxiety, and anxiety. I couldn't show up anymore. I didn't want to hop on calls with people. I didn't want family to see me. I didn't want my clients to see me. Because I felt worthless. So how free was I really? This was a lack of freedom. So, and how do you create freedom? There is not a one and done thing on how to create freedom, but it's dissolving these constraints. I believe freedom, and this is also when we look at language, freedom is not a place to get to. I'm not getting to a place of freedom. I'm not achieving freedom. Freedom already is. You need to dissolve the constraints that are there that are limiting you to experience of freedom. Freedom is already here. So when people are seeking for freedom and they want to get to the place of freedom, it doesn't exist like that. You need to look for the constraints. Look for the triggers, because that's where you are creating prisons for yourself. through your stories, through your beliefs. And once you can see them and dissolve them and see the lie in this all, because in most cases it's a lie, once you can see that, you can surrender into the freedom that you already are. And I know this language can sound vague in some cases, but this is something that you don't create intellectual understanding around. People are often looking, give me the steps and I'll create the freedom. I'll do exactly the steps that you tell me to take because I want to have that freedom. Like, you can't create that with this intellectual understanding. Freedom is this experiential knowing that happens. It's a different level of understanding. You experience it and then you get it. It's these aha moments when you see the world differently, when you tap into the possibilities that were there that you couldn't see because of the prisons that you were living in. These aha moments, you've had them before, where you saw the world differently than you did before. And then all of a sudden you experience that sense of freedom. Nothing changed in your circumstances, but you saw the world differently. That's where the freedom is. Where you can see the constraints and you move beyond them. You dissolve them. So this is how I believe the deepest form of freedom is created. And like I said, I don't believe there is a free person. Constraints need to exist to experience freedom on the other side. If there was only the experience of freedom, then freedom didn't exist because there just is. If there was only one color, there is not different types of color. It just is. If there was one sound, there is nothing. We need the contrast for the experience. That's part of our human existence here. We need contrast. You need to experience the pressure to also experience the release. You need to experience the chaos to experience the peace. You need to experience the constraint to also experience the freedom. So how do you create freedom? Is looking for these triggers. Where do you create these constraints? And what are these stories that are creating that prison for yourself? And how do you dissolve it? I need this money to be free. I need this business to be worthy. I need to be this person, otherwise I will never be in a relationship. Otherwise she doesn't like me. Like, there are so many subtle prisons present. So that's why I'm not saying that I'm a free person. But I choose to go on this journey of expanding my levels of freedom consistently. So I'm looking for the triggers. I'm looking for the pressure. I'm looking for the constraints. Even in this video right now, I feel prisons coming up. I feel constraints and ideas of what reality should be like. You need to make this video more structured. This is too deep of a topic to make a random video about, off the cuff. It needs to be thought out. You need to structure this. So I'm creating things of what reality should be like, and I'm not doing it like that, and I feel the pressure because I want to. So you can see how stories are constantly pulling you in directions. It's happening right now. It happens every single day. Why should the reality be a certain way? Where are these stories coming from? Like, what is actually true? Because when you surrender in freedom, you surrender also in possibilities. And that's where that's where the fun happens. That's where the magic happens. So this is just, does everybody has to go on this journey? No. This is a journey that I choose to go on. I want to look for the triggers. I want to expand my freedom. Is it a one and done thing? No. It's just when you face your fear maybe once when it comes to your social anxiety, are you immediately free? It doesn't work that way. I believe it works in not a downward spiral. It's a spiral, at least that I see it. So when you, let's say, work on one topic within personal development, or you create freedom around one specific situation, it will present itself again in your life. When you are moving into different seasons, different stages, at different levels of playing the game, you will experience the same kind of fear, the same kind of resistance or constraint from a different angle. Maybe the exact same one pops up again, and you think, I thought I already did this thing. I already did the work for this specific thing. But I believe these situations consistently present themselves to you for you to deepen your levels of mastery in this. It's not a one and done thing. This is something you consistently do. And a lot of people just choose not to look at it. So this is where you become a victim of circumstances, as in it's too confronting to look at all the stories because it involves ego death. It involves a confrontation with, I was wrong, and there's a different possibility out there. This is something that most people can't come to terms with. The ego rather wants to be right and imprisoned than to be wrong and free. I believe this is a quote from Peter Crone. And this is so true. You see people fight for their limitations like crazy. They want to be right about their limitations. So freedom is created internally, not externally. And Create the most beautiful world that you can. Create a beautiful life for yourself. But don't have the idea that circumstances are going to give you freedom, because that's the prison. Still, you can create a beautiful life, but not for freedom. You can create it from a place of freedom. You don't need it, you just want it. It's fun to create. So this is where the attachment again shows up. I believe real freedom is the detachment. I don't need anything. But I want it, I'm going to create it. Like, I'm here on this earth, I have a finite amount of time, so let's just make the most out of it. Let me just create all this shit because it's fun, because I want to build. What am I capable of in this world? Let's just pursue this, not because I'm a worthy individual when I do this, it's fun. Let's do it. I want to experience more freedom. I don't want to be socially anxious, so let me create more freedom around it. I want to learn public speaking. You feel the anxiety, you feel the prisons. Let's go. You maybe are afraid of posting your first video. These prisons are there all about the stories of what will happen when you post your first video. Like, it's leaning into your edge and moving past it, exploring where are your triggers, where are your limitations, where are the constraints. This is a fun journey that I believe everyone must go on, but I know it's not, it's a hard journey as well, because it's a lot of confrontation that happens. So this is just, I don't know even how long is this video, 70 minutes already around the topic of freedom. So I'm going to leave it at that. This was just my rant about freedom. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, I love to see it. And yeah, I might even make a different video about this to go deeper into this topic of freedom, like what it actually looks like to create it, because this is what I do a lot in the coaching, to highlight and bring all the stories that are underneath the surface into one's awareness. And that's when you can start to play with it to create freedom around it. So yeah, that's it.